Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
And here we go again.
Now, this was a fun one because this is our take 2. And I'm not sure if it was us or outside interference with this time. But anyway, so, this is definitely going to be a hot topic for many, I think.
Yeah, because we have things going on in our lives that might not necessarily be because of us.
Yes, we are surrounded by technology. We are surrounded by different wavelengths, different frequencies, all sorts of crazy vibrations. Oh my God. If we could all just spend maybe a week totally away, somewhere hidden in nature with absolutely no technology, I bet you we would feel like brand new people.
I think we would drop a whole lot of parasitic entities off of our energy bodies.
I tend to agree. And I mean, no, fishing by the lake and looking at your cell phone.
Right, exactly. That's true. No, that wouldn't be fair.
No, I mean, totally. Boom. There's nothing there. Even maybe disconnect the batteries from your car.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, just zero EMF.
Yes, and then see how you feel. So, most of us are aware of CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, and the fact that they have a big Shiva out there in front of a big, massive, beautiful Shiva statue out there. And Shiva can be the bringer of destruction, or can represent consciousness before the physical. New thoughts, new ideas, new ways of doing things. Lots of different ways we could look at things. But many believe that CERN is all about opening portals. And many believe that the problem that occurred in Atlantis was because of opening a portal.
And in this day and age, I mean, just look at all the different possibilities where beings could come through portals. I mean, we have so much equipment and so much energy around us, and they could just come riding in like a wave.
Most definitely. I mean, we've seen wave-like patterns in clouds that many have associated with, that thing that angels play, the instrument, HAARP.
Yes.
Again, sending frequencies out into the world around us. We have so many declassified documents for weather manipulation and control. It's ridiculous. And of course, as we're sitting here, we have 3 computers, 2 cell phones, and a router in our face.
Right. So, we're not immune to stuff, but I do feel like we have a level of awareness that helps push us do things like, shutting all of this equipment off completely at nighttime because of our awareness. We know to do that. We know that we've had direct experiences where entities have come through these devices and affected our daily lives.
I wonder how many people would admit that they're a slave to technology.
Well, I think that a lot of people who listen here would admit that, they do use their technology quite often. That if they're awake, they will. But people who are asleep, they probably just don't even think about it.
So if I said to you, the powers that be are using CERN to open up portals so that certain entities can come through from different dimensions to do whatever they're going to do on this planet, that sounds pretty scary, but it also is something that many people would believe. But then if I said to you, well, you know what? These entities can also use something as simple as this to come straight to your home.
Well, I look at CERN as like, probably the giver of this energy and all of these other littler devices, the superhighway in which they get to us.
And so that superhighway of the internet, which is, in almost everybody's home in these times for sure. Think about that. We've had an instance where we just verbally said, and I think I was looking at like different home build possibilities, and there was a beautiful Swedish sauna that was being shown, in this home. And Cindy said, I want one of those. And then when the first thing I pulled up, I could go on the internet, I wasn't going to search for that. I was just checking the news. I think I was on the Drudge Report. And then, poof, there it is. There's an ad for a Swedish sauna. You know, how did they know that when we were just verbally talking? Well, you know, the powers that be are listening all the time, 24/7, 365.
Yeah, and I think the more we recognize that and listen that we are not our own selves much of the time, as long as this equipment is on, I think it's a really important recognition, so you can help whittle away things and find out who is your real self, who is your inner self, who are you?
And think of this, you know, this is what's coming next, is having all your information, you know, and you're not going to have to carry a card, because it's going to be in you, on you, all the time. All the time. So, you know, this is going to end up being here. And if this is something that can be used to channel entities, like a smaller version of CERN, through the ether, because again, everything is frequency and vibration, everything's energy, everything is consciousness. So this becomes a tool to bring these energies, entities into our lives. Then this becomes one that you can never escape from.
You can never turn it off. The only way to get rid of it is to get it out of you. Yeah.
And this is the way this is heading. This is where we are heading. So, you know, we also have the theory of wormholes. We could look at it like a wormhole at the same time. And again, travel in one side, come out the other side. Well, you know, it's the same thing with our technology around us, the cell phones and the computers. They're all vehicles for consciousness to travel on. And we've seen it firsthand, and we've had other people see it firsthand. We had a client that we dealt with a week ago, and right when Cindy was dialing, just as she picked up the phone, started to dial, a black orb about the size of a basketball came out of the router computer, you know, area that we have set up here. And it just, you know, gave this horrible energy to it and made me really dizzy and lightheaded. And I was surprised because these things don't usually bother me at all. This was a strong one. And it was very tangible. We saw it. I mean, I saw it, and we've seen many of these things, clear as day. And I've had actually recently 3 or 4 of you guys have sent me emails talking about seeing dark orbs of energy coming out of your computer, your router, your cell phones.
And I think just we're at a time and place now in our lives where we're moving into a photon belt where these entities are having a harder time finding opportunities and a harder time holding on. That's why it's really important to recognize your energy levels, your mood. How are you thinking? How are you feeling? Because all of these things can be an indicator that one of these buggers might be stuck to you.
And as the technology increases, you know, making our lives quote unquote easier and enabling us sometimes to have cell signal in places we'd be amazed to have. Again, it's exposure to energies and different energies, because there are energies that will disrupt us physically, cause disharmony, cause us problems sleeping, perhaps even affecting our appetite, affecting our moods, causing irritability, etc., etc. And then there's, you know, also energies that will latch onto us and start to feed off of the loosh. And we've talked about this before. So the whole idea of a Stargate, you know, being used through technology is one I think we could relate to nowadays.
Right. And I think if you were to ask yourself, you know, if you've ever been in a situation where someone has asked you something or they made a comment, and let's say you took that comment completely wrong and it really spun you the wrong way, it rubbed you the wrong way, it just sent you into a bad mood because you felt this person was insinuating something that probably wasn't true. A lot of times you can bet that there's one of these entities here influencing your thoughts.
And, you know, we've heard of shadow people, and many of us have seen them. I've seen them multiple times, different types. Back in 2007, I started working for a paranormal research group and had a great time with them over the next 3 years. It was a lot of fun. And we investigated many different places, businesses, homes, and even some famous places along the southeast of the United States had many encounters with different types of energies and beings, some really benevolent, positive, even adorable and cute in many ways, like the spirit of a little boy that passed on that was about 4 years old and would still manifest as an orb of light and then actually, play with his toys. His toys would move on their own. That was really pretty cool. But then there were these as well, and I've seen a lot of these that are a little bit more serpentine-ish with glowing red eyes. They will feed off your fear, but they will also leave if you tell them to, in a forceful way. And if you know how to gather your life force, your energy, you could actually project it, and it will be distasteful to them. They want to leech and be like a tick on the body and just feed, but they like a certain frequency.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're extreme opportunists, we really have to watch our moods, because if we're going through life, something happens to us that darkens our mood or drops us down in frequency, then we suddenly become a target for these entities. And they're like, oh, wow, there's something for me to chew on. And they're such opportunists, they'll just latch right on. And then you continue that downward spiral mood, or you stay in that bad mood.
And so there are certain rituals that you could do to get rid of these beings. But, one of the simplest things is practicing Qigong and also doing mantras, because mantras will lift our vibrational frequency. And so whenever we've had bad attacks, we'll end up doing mantras. We'll do first a banishing ritual. After that, then we'll go and do mantras and fill the air with, benevolent energy from the benevolent beings above. The thing is, too, that we're raising on up as we've been in 3D, and when we're sleeping, we go into the astral plane. At the lower end of the astral plane is the place that you have your nightmares. That's where it's all kind of these nasty type of energies that are hanging out and feeding off of each other, and then also sometimes affecting people here in the 3D. When you get to the middle of the 4D realm and start going up into the higher realms, like the upper 4D, that's where you have what people would call some heavens. Amazingly beautiful places of benevolence, love, frivolity, laughter, playing, all sorts of just wonderful experiences. So that's where we're heading, and then eventually to 5D, where we're starting to actually come into a unity consciousness, starting to understand that we are all parts of a whole. Just like we have a microbiome inside our body, in which the number of cells in your body is dwarfed by 10 times the number of things that are living in you that are not you. So you are a universe unto yourself. And then, we can understand the biblical phrase, ye are gods, because your emotions control your universe as well. And so you could turn your own universe into a hell or a heaven. It's your choice in how you react with your emotional response, because the emotions are the key to our vibrational frequency.
And I think we've gotten a little taste of that recently when I feel, as we work together on this show and talk to you guys about sending out positive energy to change timelines for the better, I really think that we have been able to do that. I mean, this is just starting to show us how working together can be so delightful.
When you get down to it and you look up into the night sky and you see all these stars, every single one of them is a being. They're a spiritual being. And of course, when you look at a star, it's so big and immense and great, and it's sustaining so much more life than we are, even though each one of us is sustaining billions of lives. So imagine how great these beings are. Well, these beings are the true Elohim. These are the Devas. These are the amazing beings of light at the higher levels. But it also reflects as above, so below. So there are beings that are, not quite of that ilk, not of that vibration, not of that frequency. And it's all relative. Again, it's all about vibration and frequency, as Tesla said. That's the mysteries of the universe. And I don't know if any of you guys can see the entities in here. There's all different dimensions all around us. We are multidimensional beings. So we can't really understand it per se until we could get out of our body, which takes a lot of work through deep, deep meditation. For most people. Now, many people have done the work in past lives and are blessed with amazing abilities and skills. We've talked about the abilities of Jesus, Yeshua, who could even do things like walk on water, change water into wine, and raise the dead. But there have been beings that have been able to do just that as well. And as I've shared with you guys, if you were to become a doctor of medical Qigong, you would literally have to change the alcohol content in a glass of wine and make it higher and lower. You would have to show the ability to manipulate the physical reality through your mind, through intent and manipulation of the life force. Because that's inherent in all of us. We have this potential. And, Cindy saw recently something similar to this, but very cat-like, and definitely a little demon. As we were saying, there are demons, there are angels, there are extraterrestrials, there are interdimensionals. There's all of the above.
Right, they are. And a lot of times when we're working on people, sometimes these entities or attachments, they want to come and stand around and see what we're doing, what we're saying. And I did see one step, it was walking and then it just walks right into the floor. So it's like the darndest thing you could ever see. But it does happen, and one of our biggest tools besides the spiritual work, the Qigong, the meditation is extremely important. But for like immediate cleansing, the sage is so important because it actually changes the ether in the room. It forces them out. So that's one of the bigger tools in my arsenal that I always have close to me.
And then what do you do after the sage?
I use sweetgrass after the sage because I do want to call back in my own guides, and that's how I do it. I call in my ancestors, my guides, who probably are talking with your guides, and that's how I get the information about you guys. When I work on you, all this information is going on, and the sweetgrass is what I use to call that in.
So there are benevolent beings of light up on the higher densities, like 6D and even higher than that. And we can call out for them for help. And if we use our free will to actually call on them for help, they will take whatever we can send them and they'll magnify it and send it back down to us. There are techniques that are understood in quote-unquote modern magic. And this is a book I've owned a couple of times. I've had people borrow it and then not return it. It's a good a book to give you a primer on the Western mystery tradition and the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. But also it does talk about like the pagan path and the Wiccan path as well. Ultimately, everything is the same. It's just intent. It's really all down to intent and understanding how to manipulate the ether. So it's known that, and this is what the elites know too, we can throw energy up into like 4D and then the higher realms, and it can be, snowballed basically, and come back down to us and manifest. This is why they're always giving us the prophecies for us to fulfill that are the ones that they want us to fulfill. Which are going to be self-defeating prophecies that lead to war, death, and destruction. And, this is why they do things along those lines. This is why 90% of the news is, fear-based and all about the issues, negative issues, without harping on the good stuff. Now, it's a fine line, and we were talking to a couple of clients today about this. You can't put your head in the sand when, when bad things really could happen, but we don't want to let the energy feed them at the same time. So, we could look at, and gosh, there's been so many comments by different people. Mostly the people that comment in a negative way are the ones that haven't been with us for a while. They're just, coming on through, clicking on a headline of something that's happening and, not getting the spiritual side of things, which we're always trying to get across. If we were able to do what we want, which we are, but we need to reach as many as possible, we would just focus on, how do you make yourself better? How do you develop these abilities? But again, by covering things that are happening and then trying to show people the spiritual manipulations going on, we're hopefully opening up more and more eyes, because when we get to a certain point, then we can really change the consensus reality. So, when we look at these horrible events that happen throughout history, they happened whether we were noticing or not. We could stick our head in the sand. World War I, World War II did happen, Korean War, and then Iraq, and then Afghanistan, and all these things have happened. So regardless of whether we're sticking our head in the sand or not, they are happening. Now, I understand if it's not your life path to help others and, to try to raise up the collective understanding of what's going on. And perhaps, your life path for this life is just a simple one of peace. Then there's absolutely nothing wrong with just, having your own little farm, being out in the middle of nowhere and ignoring everything. That's wonderful. For Cindy and I, we know that we're here on a mission, so that's why we focus on what we do.
Right. And, kind of making you guys aware that your handheld devices, your computer devices can make people sick. Because when we were talking to our client today, she said she knew that there was some energy came through her phone, and then the next, I don't know if it was a few hours later or even just barely the next day, but she knew something had come through her phone, and she was running a fever, and she was very, very sick. So that's how these beings can come through and affect you in very physical ways. But I would say for the most part, they play with the mind. They play a lot of mind tricks.
They certainly do. Yeah, they are definitely tricksters. That is for sure. And, we typically see 4 to 8 people, I would say, for like 4 or 5 days every week. And many times the energies will stick on us a little bit, and then we have to maintain our practice. Like today, I took 15 minutes to get out in the sun, do mantras in between people while Cindy was going over a Vedic chart. And it was just amazing, the change in my energy. Just from 15 minutes of doing mantras and absorbing the beautiful life-giving energy that's given to us by the sun.
And I just, before I forget, I need to mention with our client, she has children. She's a very, very awake mom, which I love to see. Her children are star seeds, and she knows how to raise them. She uses Russian shungite, and she puts it on all of her devices. And she puts it on the kids' tablets, too, because that's where they can come in as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting techniques, and I have a PDF for you guys if you're interested in getting into this and just checking it out. There are many people that are philosophical magicians, so to speak. They just study it, but they don't practice, and that's fine. And I've been both for many years. And really, when you look at magic and yoga, there's different ways of saying the same things. Ultimately, yoga's goal is union with the divine. But ultimately, in like what we would call white magic, although, in reality, everything is different shades of gray when you get down to it. It's just a myriad of different shades of gray, but is really about spiritual development. So in many cases, it's learning how to defend yourself, against these little nasties, which what we would recommend is, unplug everything as far as computer, maybe store your phones in cases that will shield it, as well as, turn them off. One of our family members, hi Leah, if you're watching, she has iron kettle that she puts her cell phones in. They turn them off every night, put them in the iron kettle, which is kept in the fireplace. And that's what they do, because she's very sensitive. She actually has spent a long period of time on the other side, legally, clinically dead, and come back. And when people have that experience, and, what she shared was an embracement of just pure love and compassion, which she, saw as Yeshua. But it could have been viewed as Buddha. It could have been viewed as Kuan Yin. It could have been viewed as anything, really. It was just simply, that loving compassion that comes from Source.
Right. And that's what's so important to remember when you're dealing with belief systems. It's what belief system is going to give you that intense focus and that trust and that belief that you can shift the energy and remove these things from your space.
So there's techniques in this PDF on, banishing unwanted energies, conquering demons, so to speak, but also on things like building up your own light body through different techniques as well. There's a ritual in here that is called the Middle Pillar Ritual. And I don't think I have it right here exactly, but it's drawing down light from above. and also saying the names of God in Hebrew and resonating them as you draw that light down. It's very, very powerful. It'll add a shield, a layer of protection around you, that these darker energies won't be able to get near you. They'll be drawn away from it.
And consistency is key. Consistency is important because energies around you change all the time. So you just have to keep that consistency up.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And of course, so many people of a fundamentalist mindset would look at a pentagram and be terrified, thinking it's evil, but really what it stands for, if it's in this manner, is spirit above the elements. From the top, from source, it comes down and, becomes the Akash, becomes Chi, Ki, Vril, Prana, life force. And it's divided into the elements. And, the Chinese system is basically another way of looking at it. Again, uses the pentagram, which is fascinating as well.
Yeah, so I mean, these are just different ways, different means to get the same thing done, and that's to keep your surroundings clear.
And as we've said many times, when you're looking at the Star of David, you're seeing many things. There's many different representations, one of which is the light body Merkaba.
Yes, it sure is.
Can also represent Saturn.
Ah, yes, it can.
And we're going to get into that one. We still have to put that video together. So I hope you guys found this interesting and insightful. Again, we'd recommend definitely at least turning everything off, because recognize that the technologies around us, they're like hopping on the subway or jumping in a taxi.
Yeah, and I don't trust the phones just to turn them off. I think you need to put them in a microwave or something.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get the sledgehammer out. Honestly, that day is coming as we're working towards that, and eventually, hopefully, just have a burner phone. And when we do videos from the road, it'll be on a camera, and then we'll upload it. And then when the computer is done, it's unplugged. Yep. And same thing with the router. So experiment, guys. See how you feel. See how you sleep.
So becoming minimalists in an electronic kind of way is our goal.
Yes. And, the Essenes were like that. The Essenes, who we believe and we've gotten, is that Yeshua, Jesus, was an Essene. And they were truly not of the world system. So they had their own communities. They stayed outside of the system. They even didn't really interact with people. They interacted with people that were not in their community as little as possible. So, we could see like the Amish nowadays, kind of doing their own thing and also shunning technology.
Yeah, they have their reasons. They have their ancient reasons, and they're good reasons.
Yes, very much so. Thank you guys for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed. Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you. And if you need to reach us for an appointment, need us to help in getting rid of some of these little astral nasties, you can reach us at evolutionaryenergyarts.com or EEARTS at protonmail.com.
God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.